Good evening from First Bank Stadium. Alongside Joey Dwyer, I'm Billy Derrick as we bring you another post-game reaction after Vanderbilt's dominant shutout victory over Alcorn State 55-0. Joey's pretty impressive. I mean, it was business as usual, and last year we weren't able to say that against Alabama A&M and some of the other non-conference games. So right off the bat, I think the mindset didn't change. It carried over from last week against Virginia Tech, and we've heard all off season and even into this season that this team has a chip on their shoulder, and it did seem like tonight. We'll see throughout the rest of the season, but it did seem like tonight that they are carrying that mentality all the way throughout, and I thought tonight was really impressive, actually.
I think the most impressive part to me tonight was just their mental makeup. We talked about that coming into the game. Their intensity today I thought was excellent. They came in today ready to play, and I don't know if we could say that coming out of the Alabama A&M game last year. They were ready to play. We knew they had the physical advantage. They always do against an FCS team. But today they had a lot more than that. They had a chip on their shoulder, like we said. And I think that's the story of the Clark Lee pressers and talking about this team has a chip on their shoulder, and so does he. And we haven't been able to say that about a Vanderbilt team in a while. A lot of their football recently has looked uninspired. Recently, though, the last two games in particular, I feel like we've seen a complete switch in just the mentality of their program and the way they're operating. Billy, their mental makeup is so much better. And I think tonight was kind of a microcosm of that. And a microcosm of tonight was the fireworks went off. And the literal fireworks were not there, but I thought Vanderbilt's outlasted them, their figurative fireworks. Maybe that's a little corny, but Vanderbilt was just giving it to Alcorn State over and over again. And that's a team that I think will be a fine SWAC team. I think they project to be pretty well in the preseason. So I liked what I saw tonight in just about every aspect. And as Cole Spence said, winning is fun, and covering a winning team, also a lot of fun, Billy.
It is fun, man. It's night and day from last season. A couple of things that stood out to me tonight, Joey. And I'll start positively. I had my defensive breakdown. You can talk a little bit more about your offensive breakdown report card. Defensively, Alcorn State could not run the football to save their life. They couldn't move the football in general to save their life. Vanderbilt absolutely suffocated them. And I'm not surprised they did that. I mean, coming into this game, I had a feeling Vanderbilt would get close to 60, and Alcorn State probably wouldn't score. I mean, I think that was the expectation. But for them to not even cross midfield, I thought was really impressive. And that was Vanderbilt's first shutout victory since 2019. So it had been about 5 years since Vanderbilt had gotten a shutout victory. I think that tells you how far they've come. I mean, beating anybody 55-0 is impressive. I mean, Vanderbilt could have been playing against air, out here. And that's impressive, putting up 55 points in 4 quarters. But defensively, I mean, they were suffocating. And that's – Clark, after the game, said, we believe we can have a really good defense. And, I still think there's some maybe fans and, people around the country that they know about the offense. They know about Diego Pavia and what he can do. But this defense should not and cannot be slept on. It's Alcorn State, but last week was an inspired effort. If you look today, Virginia Tech went out and beat Marshall. I know it's Marshall, but I think throughout the season, that win and that defensive effort last week against Virginia Tech will prove to be a good one and an impressive one. But tonight was just affirmation, like we talked about in the last-minute thoughts, of the defense, at least for me. I still think, and this is the only negative I had really from tonight, is the dropped interceptions. I think that's an issue. I really think it is. It hasn't been an issue. It hasn't cost them any games. But every time they've dropped one, our reaction has been, man, that was fairly easy. Like, you need to catch that. You need to catch that interception. Derrick had one today. That one was tough. I think Martell came over and tipped it away from him, which was not ideal. And then later, Dante Carter should have had that one. And he'll tell you, he would tell us that he should have had that one. So that was the only negative for me, Joey, defensively. And Clark talked about that. He said, those are the plays we have to make in the margins. This season's going to come down to six plays. A couple of those picks could be included in those 6 plays, and I think you gotta have those. And good, they've happened so far. They happened a couple of times against Virginia Tech, and they survived it. But that was really the only negative for me defensively. And then some of the younger guys, I don't think C.J. Taylor had the interception, and that was a really impressive push from Linus Zunk. Zunk, I think so far, Joey, has been the best pass rusher. At least, I mean, they've played 2 games,
and
Sidner wasn't out there tonight, so that that's probably holding him back in that regard. But either way, Zunk, he's just pushing. I mean, he's in the backfield early and often in these first couple of games, and then Taylor was right there. He caught that one, so good on CJ. I was holding my breath on that one. I was like, uh-oh, but no, really impressive effort defensively. And I'll add some more quotes into that defensive report card, but really impressive. I think the only thing for me defensively, Joey, is catch those interceptions, because you're, like Clark said, you're going to have to in the SEC throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree, and I think those could loom large for them. Another thing, and maybe a more positive perspective on that, Clarkley has given so much detail to this program and has instilled so much into it that those 2 little mistakes that could loom large later in the season is something we're talking about after a 55-0 win. That's not our fault either. That's what they are talking about. And I think that's another thing, too.
A single game we did that last year.
Right. And this is a completely different feel around what they have. And, Billy, they're fun. At the current moment, Vanderbilt football is fun. The fireworks ran out. Diego Pavia jumped in and did a Lambeau leap in the end zone. Eli Stowers threw a touchdown. Tristan Brown made the one-handed catch along the sideline. Last week was fun. I don't know if they're going to be fun when they go to Mizzou or when they have Alabama here in a few weeks. But as Vanderbilt football is currently constructed, and based off the sample size that we have, Vanderbilt football is a fun team to watch, and a team that people tonight rallied around. Clarkley mentioned that it wasn't full. It felt pretty dang close to full. I mean, there was a lot of Alcorn fans around here. I thought they traveled well. But you look at the Vanderbilt sideline, pretty much all full, Billy. The community has rallied around this team a little bit. They took notice of what happened last week, and if they keep building going into that Missouri game, people are going to continue to notice what they do. And next week's a big week for them, but I think we're pretty confident that they can handle that. It's a tall task to go on the road and win anywhere, but this team, I think, is built of the right things. That doesn't mean that they're going to go beat Mizzou or they're going to beat Alabama in a few weeks, but I think they're well-constructed. They have a focus on the right things, and I think they're more driven than I've seen a Clarkley team be.
Yeah, it just feels so different. I think that at some point we'll stop talking about that, but it's just kind of a shock just because of what we saw last year on this very field. It looks like a totally different program. Their mentality, their makeup, everything, we've talked about that. But my outlook has pretty drastically, maybe not drastically, but fairly dramatically changed from just a month ago. I thought this was a team that, could a floor would probably be 3 wins. And then, maybe they get 4, maybe they get, maybe they beat Virginia Tech. But I did say, and I brought this up to some people, that if they beat Virginia Tech, that changes a lot for me. No matter how they do it. If you beat Virginia Tech, that changes a lot of it, because now you start the year 2-0, confidence has changed. And we talked a lot about Virginia Tech being a team comparable to Auburn, South Carolina, Kentucky. Well, South Carolina went out and throttled Kentucky today. Auburn lost to Cal. I mean, and those are 3 SEC teams that Vanderbilt, I say, gets to play, because who knows? Maybe those 3 teams are on the same level as Vanderbilt. Maybe South Carolina is a sneaky good team this year. We don't know. Right. But I think my outlook has shifted to, okay, I think out of those 3 teams, if Vanderbilt can just beat 2 of them, you're at 6 wins, because you're going to get to 4, right? Ball State, Georgia State. Georgia State, I don't know if they lost to Chattanooga tonight or not, but they were in a battle with Chattanooga, an FCS team. So they'll beat those 2. It comes down to those 3 teams, South Carolina, Auburn, and Kentucky. Outside shot at Missouri, I think that could be interesting, right? In Columbia, they're really good. You got a trip to Death Valley, Tennessee. We saw what they did today. But my outlook has shifted. And again, I don't know if it's drastically shifted for you, but it has for me, because I wanted to see the product on the field. And now that I've seen what this team is made of, their mental makeup, everything about this team, I haven't seen a weakness, right? I mean, maybe cornerback play. Yeah. I think that's probably the team's biggest weakness right now. But even against Virginia Tech, that it was glaring. It popped up in the third quarter, right? Virginia Tech got loose. There were drones. But to me, and it's not the only weakness. There's some other weaknesses on this team, and that'll pop up probably here in a couple of weeks in Columbia. But there's fewer weaknesses, right? I mean, and I think that's a big thing. And so my outlook has drastically changed. And I know it's just 2 games, but I've had enough of a sample size here to where I can sit here and say, okay, Vanderbilt can make a bowl game. And I was not necessarily ready to say that about a month ago.
No, I wasn't even close, and I think it's definitely a possibility. And the main reason I think that more so than anything I've seen on the field, and we're going to talk more about on the field. I think I'm talking a lot about mental makeup, but the most important thing I think in regards to changing the outlook on them is they believe. And that comes from Diego Pavia, it comes from Brian Longwell, it comes from Martel Height. Every guy we talk to believes. And I think that's just such an intangible thing that makes such a huge difference, especially for a program like this that's been halted by the demons of its past. They believe, Billy. They believe that they can be a good team. They believe that they could do things that Clark Lee hasn't done here yet. And I think that's completely invaluable. You look at tonight, and they come out, everybody's looking at them and saying, was last week a fluke? They believed it wasn't, and they proved that. So I'm not willing to bet against them right now. Maybe I will be after they go to Columbia, but they were ready to play tonight, and I think they have a sense that they could be better than maybe we projected them to be, and they certainly could be better than I projected them to be. I could kind of look like an idiot last week, but I think they were a lot of fun tonight. Diego Pavia only threw for 83 yards. They completely manhandled them on the line of scrimmage, though, and the offensive line wasn't perfect. They had 3 holding calls that cost them, what would that be, 45 yards. Didn't come back to bite them tonight. It might in the future, and Pavia got hit a few times. I think that was something that I looked at too, but the way he was able to run the football and the way they were able to run the football as a whole, Cedric Alexander didn't have like a huge breakout run like A.J. Newberry did, but I thought was good. Nate Johnson, the push they got on that, and I think he was untouched. Same with Martel Height on that play. I mean, that's a microcosm of what they've got, at least in terms of their depth, because I think the depth has certainly improved. I think Robbie asked Clark about that today. They seem to – last year we went to the Alabama A&M game, and we're looking at guys, and we're like, guy will never, ever touch the field. He's just in because it's Alabama A&M. It's a bigger gap in points today, and I don't know that we saw that today. We saw the third stringers come in, and it was Darren Nagu, it was Aeneas DeCosimo. The second-string quarterback was Nate Johnson. We're not looking at guys and saying, man, he's completely unplayable. Tristan Brown came in and made some plays. I think they're deeper, and I think the offense today showed that they have a little more margin for error than they have in the past. I think the downfield passing game is still a concern. They obviously didn't put an emphasis on it, but 83 yards and Tristan Brown was the leading receiver. I think maybe a little bit of a concern, and that was a concern coming into camp, so maybe it's confirmation bias, but I like what they've got. I think their running game is a lot better than I thought it would be, and that's not because of this week. It's because of last week. But and it's still they haven't got Cole Spence super involved to this point. Again, back to the fun thing. Eli Stowers throws a touchdown. Tim Beck is having a lot of fun up in the press box up there, I think. And I think it was a lot of fun to watch tonight as well, especially the defense. Something you didn't mention on the C.J. Taylor interception. Nick Rinaldi jumped over the line of scrimmage. That was something I was not expecting to see coming in the night. But, man, they've got some flair. They've got some confidence. And hard to bet against a team who's got that.
It is. It feels like this team has – we're not losing, and I know we're 2 weeks in. But this makes me even more intrigued for next week, of course, in Atlanta. That'll be a challenge, road game in kind of a quirky, old baseball stadium. That'll be interesting. Should go out and dominate still, of course. But that's good prep, going on the road to Missouri. It's a little bit different challenge than Missouri, but
very different.
But I think that Missouri game will be a really, really good litmus test for this team, just like Virginia Tech was, and they passed it. They passed that, and we can't forget about that. We're still kind of. I think a lot of people are still kind of riding off of that, and this was a good, pad after that, just kind of cushion to keep going and ride that momentum. And but after next week, it gets pretty real. Other than 1 week against Ball State, really, if you look at it. So I thought they were smart today. Really, I mean, Pavia. He got hit hard a couple of times. Number 3, I thought, was actually a pretty good player for Alcorn State. He hit him hard there early. Other than that, though, I mean, he's like we talked about it. He's smart enough to know when to get out of bounds, when to get down or just fall. And, he was sacked a few times today. And I think that's something I look at minor, with him running around. Sometimes with offensive lines, that could tire you out, whether you have to maybe drop back as an offensive lineman 5 or 6 extra steps or quick move to the left, go to the right, so like in Fromang, I don't know if I still need to listen to that. I don't know if he got to that, but what I know that's on me. Fundamental technical error there.
Yeah.
But I just think for this offensive line, they're going to have to get used to that, and I'm not saying they're not, but really against Virginia Tech, Pavia wasn't Mr. Scramble Johnny Football all day. It was, he obviously did a lot of it, but today I think he showed a little bit of, okay, I'll run to the left and then cut through the line, run to the right, try to make a throw. There wasn't as much available off of that tonight as I might have thought. He found some guys. He found, I think it was Cheryl, like on the sideline one time, and I was like, how did he complete that?
Oh, yeah.
And then, and then you mentioned Tristan Brown. So that would be a slight concern tonight. Just can that offensive line hold up, stand up, and the penalties, those are something they got to clean up. And obviously, I think there was some motion, illegal motion in there. And also on a couple of punts against Virginia Tech, there were some flags. And even after a kickoff, and same sort of thing tonight. So they got to clean up the penalties. But I don't know if that's a concern of yours, Joey, but I noticed with Pavia kind of running around, you saw where the offensive line kind of, I don't think most offensive linemen really enjoy doing that. I mean, I'm sure for Pavia, like that, he's got to do that. So, but I just thought that was something I noticed from tonight, minor. But other than that, I don't know that we learned a ton tonight about this team. I think they needed to do that, and they did it, and they took care of business. So, and my phone is running low, so we're probably going to wrap this up soon. But the Pavia pressure type thing, that was a minor concern of mine tonight. But, again, they just ran the ball. They dominated, and I thought Cedric Alexander and A.J. Newberry did their part. I thought Gillespie ran hard as well. Offensive line was good at times. I think there's some room for improvement still there, which the fact that we're saying that is – I think that's a good thing, at this point that, man, they've been pretty good. This offensive line has mauled some people around, but there's still some room for improvement, room for consistency and shoring it up. Did Stephen Hubbard start today?
Either started or played a heck of a lot of snaps.
Yeah, played a lot. Castillo and him kind of, battling for that. I think that's an interesting battle to watch. But, that's kind of a minor concern of mine. I don't know if any minor concerns popped up for you tonight, or if you learned anything else.
I don't know if we kind of hit all the minor concerns. Pavia getting hit a little bit, the penalties offensively. I don't have a whole lot though. I think they deserve their flowers after tonight, because I don't know how many times we'll be able to give them the rest of the year. They deserve all their flowers for coming out and putting aside the demons of their past and going out and winning a ball game in a way that a lot of Vanderbilt teams wouldn't have won it. They shut out a team that I think is capable of scoring. Obviously has not proven that for the first 2 weeks, but they deserve their flowers. Martel Height deserves his flowers for that punt return. CJ Taylor deserves his flowers for the interception. Cedric Alexander and AJ Newberry do. Cole Spence and Eli Stowers do. I think they've got a lot of guys who maybe didn't prove a whole lot of things tonight because we knew they could do them, but showed a lot of things that I think are encouraging if you're a Vanderbilt fan. And I just think they're a more complete team than they've been. Brock Taylor makes the field goal. I think he's a better kicker than they've had in recent memory. Jesse Mirko, I think, had, a 75-yard punt or something. They've got a lot of guys who can do a lot of things, and I think we saw a lot of them showcase it tonight, and even some guys didn't. Cole Spence, I thought, could have done more. Quincy Skinner could have done more. Junior Sherrill could have done more, and waiting on some of those guys to really break out. Skinner obviously did in week 1, but, man, I think there's a lot more left on the table for this team, and like I said, they believe, and they deserve a lot of credit for how they were able to go in, and they were always going to win this game. They're always a more talented team, and I don't think physical advantages like they have or like they had tonight go away, and I think you win just kind of as a result of that. But seeing the way they did it and the way they put them away early and just the way they dominated this game from start to finish was really encouraging to me.
Yeah, we're going to wrap this up here in a bit, but you mentioned this team believes. Joey, I think the fans are starting to believe a little bit as well. I mean, great crowd tonight. We're on this side of the stadium, of course, so we're looking over at the Alcorn State end, which wasn't empty. I mean, students showed out. First half, I think a lot of them started heading out after halftime. But great crowd, and that's the momentum type thing. Fans start seeing what they're doing. You got it's 3 weeks until their next home game, so we'll see. But and that's Texas. I think that's Alabama, then Texas. They finally got it. But either way, Joey. Business-like performance for Vanderbilt tonight, 55-0 over Alcorn State. Up next, a trip to Atlanta, Georgia State next weekend. I'm hoping to make the trip with you. I think we'll all things go well, Joey and I will be there, but stay tuned. Maybe we'll put a confirmation tweet out there or something. But dominant performance, Joey. And again, sorry we couldn't get a full 40, 45 minutes out here, but we'll have plenty more post-game reactions for you guys before my phone dies. So that's Joey Dwyer. I'm Billy Derrick. Vanderbilt dominant win over Alcorn State tonight, 55-0. Thanks to our sponsors. It's part of the podcast is part of the 440 Sports Network. Joey, we got a couple new sponsors as well. Maybe not brand new, but that have been added here in the last month or so. Obviously, we've got the Wash House, the Murfreesboro Pure Milk Company, as well as Sutherland and Belk. SBInjuryLaw.com is the website there. John Levin, good friend of the show and a huge Vanderbilt fan. Wobble Bond Dickinson, thanks to the student athletes there at Vanderbilt as well, and Yeaman Packaging Systems. So big thanks to all our sponsors. Everybody makes this happen. For Joey Dwyer, I'm Billy Derrick. Thanks for checking out another post-game show after a dominant Vanderbilt win.